in Canada. A suspect has now been identified in the break-ins that have been occurring in Hindu temples. Remember, in October of this year, 41-year-old Jagdish Pandhar has been named as a prime suspect. As per Canadian police, Pandhar has also been linked to various break-ins at Hindu temples through the year in the Durham region around the Greater Toronto area. Sanjeev Srivastav joining us on the broadcast to have a quick conversation on this. So Sanjeev ji, now, there's a context to this, and the context is that our dearly well-known Justin Trudeau has been very, very hypercritical, and he feels that India is behaving irresponsibly. What is the word he used? Blustering, and the kind of language that he's used very recently. I'm talking about a few days ago. The question, of course, remains is what is the action that the Canadian authorities have been taking, all the way from the Kanishka bombings to all the Hindu temples that have been attacked and vandalized, to the people who've been taking out rallies celebrating the assassination of a prime minister, to the people who are openly coming and saying that they will blow up aircraft and terrorize cricket matches, to now people who are trying to assassinate heads of temples there. Now, what is the action taken? Are you impressed with one suspect being identified after all many years and years of crimes that have taken place in Canada on these matters?
Good afternoon, Rishabh-ji, and you yourself very insightfully elaborated the entire context. And yes, certainly I'm not impressed at all with this kind of one simple arrest. And India has been making this kind of request to Canadian authorities to take strictest possible actions against those elements, those who are carrying out anti-Hindu, anti-India activities. I would also say that these activities are not just anti-India, anti-Hindu activities, but these are terrorist and extremist activities which are harmful for Canadian society too. But Canada, and particularly the Justin Trudeau administration, they have been ignoring time and again, and rather taking any action on those charges and those vandalism and break-ins, etc., etc. They were alleging India that India carried out something in Canada, which was quite a baseless and evidence-less accusation. So I think the kind of approach, and let me say that why Justin Trudeau was doing all this, and he still appears to be continuing on that path, just to appease certain elements based on their support his government is running. So I think Justin Trudeau's entire approach with regard to India-Canada relationship has been very self-centric.
But Sanjeev ji, it is understandable to take a position. I mean, he is supposed to be working in the best interests of Canada. He can work in his best political interests. But what the issue is that these security violations, these crimes are happening in Canada against Canadians. These are not people who can be disowned by the Canadians, that they are all Indians, they don't belong here. These people are as Canadian as Jagmeet is. Okay. So what is it showing? Are we seeing, it's not a racial bias, so are we seeing an ethnic, religious bias here? That if you happen to be speaking out against India, or if you happen to be attacking Hindus, it's fine. Are we trying to say that Hindus are no longer welcome in large parts of Canada?
Rishabh-ji, you have very rightly, said that when these kind of incidents are happening, it is harming Canadian citizens. You mentioned, Rishabh-ji, about Kanishka bombing. Most of the passengers, those who were killed in Kanishka bombing in 1985, were of Canadian citizens. So Canada has been facing the brunt of this extremism and terrorism. But because of the narrow political vested interest, these politicians, whether Justin Trudeau or his father Pierre Trudeau, they continued with this kind of a policy just to fulfill their narrow political vested interest. They are not serving Canadians at all. It is not going to be doing any good to Canada. It has never done any good to Canada, such kind of sheltering and protecting such elements in the name of their narrative of freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, etc., etc. So I think the entire approach of Justin Trudeau administration is very confusing. I think he is showing a lot of immaturity.
Okay,
It appears that he has not
attacks on Hindu temples have been going on for the better part of 2 years. We are now getting reports that one suspect has been identified. So it's taken them 2 years, and this is a case in Durham that took place in October, so 2 months to identify this suspect. Okay. Now the question is, Sanjeev ji, and I'm sorry to be relativistic here, but the relativism is important. If this had been a mosque, if this had been a church, if indeed it had been a gurdwara that had been defaced in such a manner, would the same standards apply as what has happened to the Hindu temples?
excellent point, Rishabh you have made. And had it been a Gurdwara, you would have seen a completely different reaction, quick reaction, strict reaction would have come out from the same administration. And they have obviously attempted their best to ignore any action against the vandalism and break-ins on the Hindu temples. So I think the approaches and they have been completely exposed by now, and the kind of policies they are adopting with regard to protecting those extremists and terrorists, it is quite evident and quite clear. And
Okay.
and we know it very well that had it been any other place of worship, their reaction would have been completely different.
Okay, for if anybody is watching this telecast or watching it later as it streams online, who doesn't really understand, because when the Canadian ambassador here, High Commissioner here in India was asked repeatedly about extremism, he kept talking about respect for all faiths. Well, here's a reality check. Sikhism and Hinduism are intertwined for the Punjabi community. What used to happen is that the eldest child in a Hindu family became a follower of Guru Nanak. So my name is Gulati. You will find Sikhs, Punjabi Sikhs, who also carry the name Gulati. Manmohan Singh Kohli has been a very senior leader in this country, head of government. You will find a Virat Kohli. Okay. So what the Canadians don't understand is that these are intertwined communities. I've grown up going to Gurdwaras, and my grandfather, who was not a Sikh, had a massive portrait of Guru Nanak in his bedroom. So we grew up like this. So this confusion that they seems to have of that these are divided communities is fundamentally wrong. There are people who are choosing to divide them, but the communities are not divided. So I have to ask you, Sanjeev ji, on the present context on what is currently going on, because they've caught one guy for some Hindu temple defacement 2 months ago. As we speak, someone has showed up, and Saray is the hometown of the Khalistani movement in Canada. It's also the hometown of several of those involved in the Kanishka bombings. There is a Hindu temple there, and the head of that temple, an assassination attempt has just happened this morning. Now, I don't see what Five Eyes Intelligence and others are doing about it.
Yes, certainly. You made a very pertinent point, Rishabh ji, in the beginning, pardon me, that the Hindu and Sikh communities are so intertwined, and it is these two faiths are worshipped in a similar way. I have been visiting several gurdwaras the same way I visit any temple. And similarly, I have seen my Sikh brothers and sisters, they have been visiting temples like they visit gurdwaras. So I think Canadians don't understand how close these two religions are. And they should understand it better. They do it, then it is too late. And another point which you have very well said, that in Canada, this kind of places of worships are very much there. The people of Canada, the Sikhs of Canada, the Hindus of Canada, large number, most of the people of Sikhs and Hindu communities, they are working for India, and they are not divided. But the certain, handful, extremist and terrorist elements, they are attempting to wage a narrative that the Sikh community, the Hindu communities are different. And the worst part is that this Trudeau administration is playing in their hands because of their narrow political vested interest. Jagmeet Singh and Jagmeet Singh's party, the New Democratic Party, they are attempting to to propagate this kind of ideas that these two countries are different.
This is you know, there is so much scrutiny that is put on India. It should put it. We are a free, open country, so you should put scrutiny. But why is the equal amount of scrutiny not being put on Jagmeet Singh? Okay, why are a group of people repeatedly getting managed that they become power brokers in Canada? Jagmeet, by the way, says he doesn't support Trudeau anymore, that he won't support him in the next election, which is a political ploy. We understand it, it happens in the scope of elections. But let's be clear on certain factors. For the past 40 years, terrorism has been happening. The worst terror attack in the history of the world until 9/11 was committed by a group of people who walked free in Canada. It is unconscionable. These attacks are not solitary. Bullets have been fired in the past 24 hours. And this is a problem for the Canadians. It's a problem you've created for yourselves. All the best to you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.